Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. You know, I always say today. Well, guys, we got him on the show. We had to handcuff him and put a low jack on him and have somebody stand by the house so we could get him on the show. But we finally got him, y'all. My guest today, let me tell you a little bit about him. As you well know, he's an editor, he's a songwriter, he's a studio musician, he's a mentor, he's a music industry consultant, which we're going to talk about. He's a producer. Is this not enough for you, huh? He's a founding member of the 80s band Mantus. He's a drummer's drummer. I just simply call him a legend. Will you help me welcome my guest today, Billy Amendola? Hey, Billy.
Hey, Cheron, how are you, man? It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Pleasure.
Billy, how you like that title, a legend?
I don't know if I could live up to that. I'm still trying. So maybe one day, 100 years from now, somebody will look back and agree with that.
Billy, I tell you, you've got more experience and stories than we could ever have.
It just comes with age and experience. But I appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
Let me take you all the way back, Billy. You're originally from Brooklyn?
Born and bred in Brooklyn. I still live in Brooklyn. I like Brooklyn.
And taking you all the way back still, I see that you come from a musically inclined family. Your father was a trombone player?
Well, yeah, my dad, before he got married, when he was in the Navy, he was in the Navy band. He played trombone. He was into big bands, and him being, he was always into music, and that was a big driving force and huge support in my life.
I saw where you was influenced by seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, that, my generation, that's once the Beatles came on, I wanted to be a different Beatle every day. And then finally, the drums kind of took over. Ringo, I loved Buddy Rich, but to me, when I would watch Buddy Rich, it just looked like, well, I'll never be able to do that. That is the best. That's amazing. But, then when I saw Ringo and it was more the type of music that I liked and heard on the radio, that just sparked the magic right then and there of wanting to be a musician and, pursue my dream and be a different Beatle every day. That's what I wanted to do, be in a group and be on the radio. And thank God it worked out a little bit for a little while.
Billy, you remember when you got your first drum kit?
Yeah, I was 10 years old. My grandparents, for Christmas, they surprised me because I started playing drums around at 7.
Billy, what was the situation? What was the scene at age 15 you playing with Uncle Sam? What was that?
Yeah, that was my first real band. I had bands growing up, from the time I was in grammar school, probably 5th and 6th grade. I had, I was already starting bands or playing with other musicians. And Uncle Sam was one of my first, what you would call real bands where we got paid to play block parties and high school dances. And I was probably 14 years old at that time.
That metamorphosis into the Gypsy, which later became Mantus?
Correct. It went from Uncle Sam, then a couple of personnel changes to Gypsy. And then in 1976, we changed over to Mantus and we started, times were changing. Disco music was coming in, dance music, and top 40 was becoming more and more disco. And, we had a manager and an agent at that time. So we shifted over from playing rock into playing what we thought was dance music and funk and disco. And we all loved it because we all grew up on Motown. We were all in the, we were like brothers. We all grew up together in walking distance. We were always in each other's houses. So we grew up together and we all liked the same music. So we just kind of, turned the page and somebody said, can you do a disco record? We were playing funk music and, in between playing our rock stuff. And they offered us a deal, and we went in and did a record that made some noise in Canada. And then we came back, and he said, let's do another one. And then that one became a top 10 hit in the dance clubs and on the dance stations, on all the radio stations across the country. And then the second single went to #1 in Europe. We went over there to do TV. And then all of a sudden we were, 5 white guys from Brooklyn with really long hair in a rock band. Now we're playing, R&B clubs in Detroit and having hit records all over the place. And, they wouldn't let us put our picture on the cover because they didn't want to, they were afraid that, people would be shocked. And, but we were proud, we were happy that, people thought that we were an R&B group, and we loved it because, that's what we all grew up on.
Billy, later, right thereafter, you went on and started doing a lot of studio session work. Tell me about working with Marlena Shaw. She's one of my favorites.
I was doing so much studio work at that time. Fortunately, after the band split, because I was, in that circle, I was getting hired to do sessions. And Marlena was one of the records. I think I did 2 songs on her album. I forget the name of the album. That's one of the great things about when you forget about what records you're doing, that just means you're doing so many sessions. That's how you know things are pretty good, because you're doing sessions, you forget about them, and then sessions that you get excited about, nothing ever happens. The song never comes out. The record never comes out. Somebody maybe replaced you. I replaced someone else. And then the songs that you don't even think about, a year later, all of a sudden, they sold 3 million copies or they're out there. But Marlena was she was well respected and more into jazz. A lot of jazz people knew her, but she was like everyone else, crossing over, doing some R&B dance stuff. But I actually played on one of the ballads, so I was happy about that because I was tired of just doing the boom, boom, boom.
Billy, briefly, tell me, what was the Slappers?
Oh, that gave me ulcers. The Slappers was a flat drumstick that I came up with, and I just, I from playing electronics for so long, when I went back to playing acoustic drums, you couldn't really change sounds. It was like that was the sound, and I was kind of bored, really. So I was in my buddy's Venetian blind shop, and he had the shade sticks, and they used to cut them to size. And I picked 2 up, and they were kind of like, they felt really good in my hands, and they were flat. They were just flat sticks. So I took them home, and I started using them on the drums. And I noticed if I turned them sideways, I would get a louder sound. If I hit them, I would get a slap, which is where slappers came from. And I would get like the meat of the stick hitting, not just the front. Or if I wanted the front. So anyway, long story short, I got this crazy idea. People telling me, "Oh, you should do that." And I hooked up with my buddy Vinny Federa, who makes Federa basses, some of the best basses in the world to this day. And he had a wood shop, and we got just exotic wood. I made him out of this beautiful exotic wood, not realizing that exotic wood cost a lot of money. And I started giving them to friends, Charlie Drayton and Jim Keltner and, Dennis Chambers, and they all started using them and they liked them. And I took out a couple of ads in Modern Drummer at the time, before I was working there. And they started to get a little popular, but some guys couldn't get used to them being flat. So I made a deal with LP, and they were going to put brush handles on them. And the whole thing kind of fell apart because I didn't want to be a stick manufacturer. I just, it was just something that I did. And then all of a sudden if I wanted to pursue it, I would have had to turn into a stick manufacturer. And all the companies, they're set up for dowels. So to make a flat stick was handmade. It was impossible. It was just too much. So I kind of let it, after it aggravated me for so long and I invested so much money and I saw that I was going to have to just keep investing on patents and all these different things, I just let it go. But to this day, fortunately, Jim Keltner, he still, he still uses them, and he asks me if I have any left, and I really don't. But that's what that was. It was a stick that was flat that gave different sounds, and it kind of kept me occupied on acoustic drums. That's the truth behind it.
How'd you get that gig over at Modern Drummer?
I got that gig by freelancing as the artist liaison at the Modern Drummer festivals. So anyway, I got the job. Ron kind of created a job, took me under his wing, and we just went from there. I just basically called some of my friends and started doing, interviewing them. And instead of just having a conversation like this, it was just, let's have a conversation and, put it down on paper. The staff there was great. Everybody that was there even longer than I was. So I'm an East Coast rep for Drum Channel now, working with Don Lombardi. So I'm happy about having my new home.
A little drum technique talk. What's your approach on the drum kit, Billy?
My technique is really grooves, playing in time, from playing along with drum machines. I guess I developed, that was my way of practicing to a click, because I at one point I got so used to playing with a loop or something going on the drum machine that I would either use on a record or stripe after I put the drum track down. So to me, that gave me really good timing, I guess. When I look back, people say, man, you got such great timing and good feel. And I think that comes from just playing along with percussion, because Mantus was heavy on percussion. I think playing the groove and being able to make it feel good and, putting fills only in the right spots, that's what I would say my technique is.
Talk a little bit about what you mentioned earlier, the Drum Channel. Let people know what that is and what you guys are doing over there.
Drum Channel has been around, I believe, almost 15 years. Don Lombardi, half him and John Good are DW drums and own DW drums and Gretsch and LP and Slingerland. I mean, and of course all the hardware that they invented and came up with, and it's just incredible what they've done for the music business in the last 40 somewhat years, 40 plus years. So Don had started Drum Channel as a separate entity from DW, but at the beginning it was kind of confusing because Don was the face and he's half of DW, so everybody thought that Drum Channel was only associated with DW, which is not the case. It's never been and it never will be. It's two separate things. So they have the best teachers. It's more of an education site. It was more of an education site. And they have the best teachers and players in the world. I mean, Thomas Lang and Greg Bissonette, Chad Wackerman. You can take Terry Bozio. You can take lessons off of any of these guys. Where years ago that would have been very difficult to do. And, they have a curriculum of like a school, and they've always been into the educational part of it. I'm going to come over now and kind of bring more, as we say, craziness. I don't know if that word's good or not, but a little more craziness, in my terms, more entertainment and more of what I was doing at Modern Drummer. I took over the podcast because I did the podcast for Modern Drummer for the last 2 years. So I will be doing a lot of podcasts for Drum Channel, both through Zoom until we get out of this pandemic completely. But I've also been doing a lot of live ones as well. And then I'm going to have another show down the line which is going to be more of like a variety type radio show. Right now we're doing only audio, regular podcast, straight up audio, but we're filming them. So there will be film to show again that we'll repurpose. And then I'm going to have a different show called Billy's Bubble, if it comes to fruitation, somewhere down the line, where that'll be more than just drummers, because I love drummers and I love drumming, but I made a lot of drummers rich and famous over the last 30 years or so. So I still will, and I have that now at my new home at Drum Channel. But on my other show, I'll be able to interview just about anyone, talk about life, talk about music, of course, and give some music news. And more or less, that'll be like my digital magazine, just get the word out on who's touring, who's, what's happening.
Billy, there's a thing we do on the show we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers, I ask the guests if they leave a parting word for the young drummers, the guys who'll try to get traction in this game or industry, and even the guys at the next level. Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
Yeah, what I say about advice all the time is, it's only my opinion. It's only someone's opinion that they can give, because nobody really knows, everything. And as soon as somebody, here's my advice, as soon as somebody tells you something and they tell you it's this way, or, this is the way it is, that's bad advice right off the bat, because there's so many different ways of doing things. And nowadays, yes, things are done different from like when I was growing up, when you were growing up, things are always done different. Every 10 years, everything changes, technology changes, life changes, everything changes. So you have to constantly learn. My advice is to just constantly learn. Never think that you know it all, because as soon as you think you know it all, that's not good, because then there's no growth and you kind of become a pain in the ass. The whole thing about being in this business is you want to stay positive. You want to stay up. You do it because you love it, not because you want to make money, which is even harder nowadays. That has to be the least, purpose for being in music, is to make money, because it's very hard and you have to think out of the box. But, my advice is just stay positive, stay healthy, stay strong, believe and have passion. You can never lose the passion, because you have to play music because you love it, and you're going to do it either way, whether you're making money or not. If you're only doing it because you want to make money, or you're not doing it because you're not making any money, then you don't have the passion. It's not a good thing. I won't say you're never going to make it, but it's not a good thing. You got to keep that passion, and you got to get used to, you got to get tough skin. You're going to hear no a lot more times than you're going to hear yes. So you have to not take it personally, and it's hard because it takes time to not take things personally, especially when you're younger. You take everything personally, and then you're only thinking of yourself. Everybody usually, which is a good thing, because I'm learning that now as I'm getting older. I always try to help people, and I always try to give, advice, and I always tell them, it's only my opinion. You ask my advice, this is it, you take it or leave it, but I'm learning that you do have to take care of yourself and worry about yourself. Be happy with yourself. Be happy with the way you're playing. And deep down inside, if you're ready or not. If you're playing and you're filming your stuff and you're still seeing that there's things you need to work on, you got to work on them. If you see that, you're not such a great jazz player, practice more jazz. It's according to what kind of drummer you want to be, and then go for it. Learn as much as you possibly can, but go for that one thing. Get it set in your head. Like, I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be on the radio. Thankfully, that's what I did. If you want to be a chops drummer and only play chops, that's great. You want to be a school drummer, get a job playing Broadway shows or, reading music, that's great too. Just try to do and focus, learn everything, but focus on what you really are comfortable playing and what you want to play and what you enjoy. And that's the only advice I can give, because once you're out there playing, it's going to be, people are going to see you. It's not rocket science, especially nowadays. There's no excuses why 10-year-old kids at one point, when I was at Modern Drama, every day I would get 100 videos from parents, of their 10, 11-year-old kid wailing on the drums. And it didn't impress me, because with YouTube and everything that this generation has at 10 years old, they should be great. You could learn anything you want to learn. Back in the day when we were learning, you heard it on a record. You didn't know what drum somebody was hitting. You didn't know if it was a bass drum or he was hitting a floor tom. So that's, in a way, that's how you develop your own style. So that was a good thing. Now, people, my advice, the worst advice that anybody could give someone is tell them, play along to a Slipknot record or play along to XYZ, whatever it is, and play it note for note, put it up on YouTube, get your 1 million followers. That's good. But a lot of people think that once they get those followers, they made it. But that's not it at all. And that's a bad thing. You got to get into a band. You got to play with other people. You got to learn how to play for the song. Otherwise, you're just going to be one of those drummers that have all these crazy fancy chops, and you'll get your 1 million followers, but that's not going to last forever. I hate to bust bubbles on people, but the people who use that as a tool, because everything is a tool, the way you use Pro Tools, the way you use Logic, the way, anything, any piece of equipment, everything is a tool. The internet is a tool. You can't rely only on those one thing and say, okay, yeah, now I have 1 million followers. I'm the greatest drummer in the world. Everybody's putting likes on my thing. It doesn't mean anything. It has to last for your whole life. You have to be able to have a career, unless you want to be the type of drummer where it's just a hobby, you're doing it for fun. You want your followers. That's all you want. That's all well and good. But that's only a step. Go to the next step now. After you get all that down, you have to go out and you have to be in a band. You have to play, learn how to write songs, be involved as a drummer. That's my biggest advice. As a drummer now, there's no excuse if you're in a band. The band splits everything evenly. It doesn't get split anymore where, one person wrote the song, because that's very rare. And if it is, that means that person don't need a band. They go in, they hire studio musicians. So you want to be involved in as much as possible and do as much as possible. So use everything as a tool to get to the next step and always keep learning. That's the only advice that I could possibly give. And there's no guarantees for anything.
Thank you, Billy. If we had to pay for that, that would have been expensive. That's great.
Well, I try to give back, and that's one of the reasons why, I could have retired after leaving Modern Drummer, and, I've been in this business my whole life, and, I not that I'm wealthy, I'm far from wealthy, but, I want to get the next generation. I want to leave my mark. I like I said, I did make a lot of drummers rich and famous and helped them along, and I'm happy about that. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the work I did do for the 25 plus years at Modern Drummer.
Billy, what would you want your legacy to be said, to be told?
I guess I would want my legacy to, I would like to live forever after I move on to wherever I go, or back to my planet, because I keep saying, I've been here on this earth so many times, and I wish mankind would get there together. I'm tired of coming back, and we don't seem to learn from our past mistakes. But my legacy, I would just like to be known as pretty much the way I am. I love to give back. I like to help people, and I really like to make people happy. I like to make their dreams come true if I can, and that's part of the reason why I do the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and to watch these people's dream come true. And I guess my legacy would just be, I just want to be me. I want to leave my mark and my words of wisdom that hopefully people can learn from long after I'm gone. From my words and my music, of course, whatever music is out there now, that's one way to, as musicians, we all live forever. You know, songs are still on the radio. I'm grateful to have songs that I wrote or played on, you know, over 40 years ago, still on the radio. And, you know, so my legacy would just be that I teach someone something and make their dreams come true and make them happy. You know, that's me. I like to make people happy.
Billy, let me say thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
I thank you, Cheron. Thank you, and I wish you a lot of luck in everything that you do. I know you played, you know, you played on some great records, and you did your thing.
It was guys like you. I always said, if we made it rock, you made it roll.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, you know, inviting me on and doing this and letting me babble for a little bit. Thank you.
We are so grateful for you, Billy. Would you help us wave goodbye to all the fans?
Thank you, everyone. And come visit. Come visit us both. You know where we are now. So pop in. And Cheron will be on my bubble show because that's what I'm going to do. You know, that's what that's going to be, you know. So thank you, everyone.